Okay, 33. There are 5 major groups. What time is that? Oh, I gotta talk fast. There are 5 major groups involved in securitization. Originators we've touched on. Depositors, sponsors, master servicers, and trustees. Originators are the people who made the loan, even if it was only for 10 seconds or so. Depositors are the guys who were in charge of gathering the 5,000 loans together. They didn't always gather them from one mortgage company. Sometimes it was a series of different mortgage companies. And that brings us to 38. The companies that directed the creation of these trusts are called the sponsors. Sponsors primarily were a middleman in this process, but they were often the people who filed the documents with the SEC and IRS so that they became official investment entities and tax-exempt entities. The people who are responsible for the day-to-day collection activities related to a loan, for sending out the notice when you're delinquent, for adjusting your adjustable rate mortgage, all those other things, those are the servicers. Servicers are the most lucrative role in this process often, and lots of times they're called master servicers, meaning they farm out that work. The companies that operate the trust after it's been created are called the trustees. They're almost always banks. There are about 8 banks that are the trustees for almost the vast majority of loans in this country. They have the authority, but are usually not required to take action to enforce any breaches in the PSA. 8 big banks are the usual trustees: Bank of America, Bank of New York Mellon, Citi, Deutsche, GMAC Ally, HSBC, JP Morgan Chase, and Wells. 5 of those were involved in the settlement. To give you some idea, I talked earlier about total mortgage debt being between 12 and 14 trillion dollars, 8 trillion of it in trusts. To give you some idea of the total assets of these banks, Bank of New York Mellon is the world's largest custody bank, holding things for other owners. They have $26 trillion in assets. And that's from an article from Reuters, February 16th. I hadn't seen that before, and it just kind of blew my socks off. And the article was titled, U.S. SEC Pressures BNY Mellon for Better Disclosure. In other words, you have told us very, very little, BNY Mellon. Could you give us more, please? That's kind of the approach the SEC would take with anything that has trillions of dollars under assets. Trustees don't keep the documents themselves, so you might think that, all right, here's the mortgage file and it got transferred from originator to depositor to sponsor to trustee. No, there's another entity in this process. It's called the document custodian. Your only job is to make sure all the documents that show that the trust owns all these mortgages are in the mortgage files in the vault, you document custodian. Okay, now we're on why is it important to learn about mortgage securitization. Reason number 2, the major investors in all these trusts are pension funds, banks, insurance companies, and state and local governments. Now, when we get into the part a little bit later about how all these trusts are just about empty of performing loans, you have to go back and say, okay, so who's going to be affected by that? Pension funds, banks, insurance companies, and local, state, and government and municipalities. It's at the core of our economy. It's inextricably tied. The PSA for every trust includes provisions regarding the mortgage file, which I just discussed, that this mortgage file is supposed to have the promissory note endorsed to the trust or endorsed in blank, the mortgage, the assignment of mortgage, and the title insurance policy. If it doesn't, if it's a MERS loan, they might make an exception and say that it just has to have been transferred on the MERS system by the closing date of the trust to the trust. But we all know from reading what we've read, especially from Attorney General Biden and Attorney General Schneiderman's complaints, they both recently sued MERS. That's New York and Delaware, where most of the trusts were made, as did Martha Coakley, the Attorney General of Massachusetts. All 3 of them have filed major lawsuits against MERS. The other 2 I would mention here are Attorney General Masto of Nevada, who was the first to file criminal charges against a major document mill, LPS, God bless her, and also filed a civil lawsuit. And we can't forget the Attorney General of Illinois, Lisa Madigan, who less than a month ago filed a lawsuit against a Florida mortgage document mill, nationwide title clearing, one of the largest and most threatening looking into the camera, she says that, of the various mortgage document mills. I say threatening because people sitting here today have received threatening letters, Michael and Lisa. I'm not sure about our AGs.
Our AG opened and closed their investigation.
Oh, right. AG opened and closed their investigation in Florida. Tampa Lisa Madigan said enough is enough. This is the famous Brian Bly. And if you want to read Lisa Madigan's lawsuit against nationwide title clearing, it is a thing of beauty. She laid it all out, and she didn't pull her punches in any way.
Who's that? Who's that?
Lisa Madigan, the Attorney General of Illinois. Illinois, Massachusetts, Nevada, New York, and Delaware are leading the way in this. Those are the 5 Attorney Generals who really seem to be serious about what they're doing. Now I'm going to talk very briefly that there are a lot of lawsuits beginning to rise up against these various trusts. One is for failure to disclose risks, such as failing to disclose that a big percentage of the loans were in default at the closing date of the trust. Disregard of underwriting guidelines. When we say 80% of our loans are going to be 80% loan-to-value loans, it turns out that maybe only 30% of them were. So instead of this lovely little pool, maybe it's this pool. Maybe it's the more green than blue, right? And there's still pretty good loans in there, but there are more of these real questionable loans popping up. So you think you've bought this, but you really bought this. But then as we go on to look at more of the loans that are being brought to investors, including one of my favorite, the Oklahoma Police Pension Retirement Fund, they said, oh hell no. It was not only not this, it was really this down here, because we think the trust didn't have any of the loan documents. They never bothered to get the loan documents, which more and more people now believe to be true. So basically these loans just say, you want to be investing in something that's all blue and a little bit of green. You don't want yellow and red. And what we're finding is that investors, including sophisticated investors who were in charge of our state and local pension funds, thought they were investing in this. They were really investing in this. On pages 9, hello. Sorry, that's, excuse me, material. On pages 9, 10, and 11, for all of you who like to read legal cases, I'm not sure who that is. Besides me, I love to read this stuff. I think there's got to be a few in there. These are all the lawsuits that have been filed by private investors in the SEC. You'll see from the years that most of them are in 2011. Most of them are after June 2011. Why are we an emerging area of law? Challenging the people who put these trusts together, saying exactly what we're saying here. You told us it was blue and green, and it was actually yellow and red. Sometimes visualization helps. And these trusts are meeting with varied success in the courts. And part of that is all of that language, the disclaimer language that I talked about, all of that language that's in those documents that says, this is what we plan to do, but God, don't hold us responsible if it doesn't turn out that way. And many judges say, look, that language appeared 27 different times in this document. Why would you invest in something like that? Why, you being a sophisticated investor, the head of an investment house or an investment bank, and you saw 25 different places in the document that said, hey, but we're not going to be responsible if we don't do anything we said we're going to do. The judge wanted to know why he should hold anybody responsible. It was your fault for investing in such trash. The trusts have been continually downgraded by the rating agencies, and we all know how much trust we should put in the rating agencies. So even the rating agencies have said, oh, it turned out not to be AAA, it turned out to be AA, oh, it turned out to be B. Hey, it's C today, what do you know? So there's a lot of that going on. You will not see write-downs on the books of the cities, counties, and states. So even when a rating agency says, oh, this is really worth about 80% of what we originally thought it was worth, you won't see anybody over in the county financial offices downgrading our investment to 80% from 100%. They still like this stuff. They think it's good that they bought it. I've talked about Greg Lippman, that's number 65. Third reason why it's important to learn about mortgage securitization. The RMBS trusts now own more homes in most counties than any other property owner. So I'm leaving now. I'm going to turn this over to Lisa. But I like to have an action plan that everybody can do if they get outraged by some of this. You can go to your property appraiser's website and you can search the property appraiser's websites. They are so excellent throughout Florida. I've been on every single county property appraiser's website. And you can search by the name of the property owner. So you can put in Deutsche Bank, you can put in Wells Fargo as trustee for, and then don't put anything. You can put in these names, and up will pop a list of every property in your county that's owned by Deutsche Bank or owned by Wells, all these properties that they have foreclosed on and have in their name.